Chapter 11 of the Story of the Greeks. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Rob K. The Story of the Greeks by H. A. Gerber. Chapter 11. The Brothers' Quarrel. The misfortunes of Thebes had not come to an end with the banishment of Oedipus, and fate was still against the unhappy city. The plague, it is true, had stopped, but the two young princes were quarrelling about the possession of the throne. Both wanted to reign, and neither wished to share the throne with his brother. After much dispute, they agreed at last that each should reign a year in turn. Eteocles, the elder, was of course allowed to rule during the first year, while Polynices went to pay a visit to Adrastus, king of Argos. Here he was warmly welcomed and hospitably entertained. But when the year was ended, he hurried back to Thebes to reign in his turn. When he came to the city, however, Eteocles refused to give up the sceptre, and, calling out his guards, made use of his power to drive Polynices out of the town. This was very wrong, for a promise should always be kept, and it made Polynices so angry that he said he would return with an army and force his brother to act fairly. Polynices therefore hurried back to Argos, and soon persuaded Adrastus, with 5 other kings and noted warriors, to go with him to Thebes and help him take the throne by force. When Eteocles heard that 7 kings were coming with a large army to make him give up the throne of Thebes, he made up his mind to fight hard to keep it. After strengthening the city walls, laying in a great stock of provisions, and securing the help of 7 brave allies, Eteocles closed the gates of Thebes and calmly awaited the arrival of the enemy. Meanwhile, the 7 chiefs were marching from Argos to Thebes. They came at last to the forest of Nemea, where Hercules, the chief hero of Argos, had once slain a terrible lion. This monster had long lived in the forest, filling the hearts of all the people with dread, and when Hercules came out of the forest wearing the skin of the lion, they had greatly rejoiced. In honor of Hercules' victory over the Nemean lion, the 7 chiefs stopped in this spot to celebrate games, which they said should be held in that neighborhood every 3 years. This festival was ever after celebrated thus, and when the people gathered together there to see the racing and boxing, they loved to recall the memory of the brave lion-slayer and of the 7 kings who had first celebrated the Nemean games. When Polynices and his allies came at last to Thebes, they found all the gates closed, and although they fought bravely and tried hard to enter the city, they were kept at bay for 7 long years. At the end of that time, the people inside the city and those without were equally tired of this long siege, so it was finally agreed that the 2 armies should meet on a neighboring plain and fight it out. The armies were led by the 2 brothers, who now hated each other so bitterly that instead of waiting for the signal for battle, they rushed upon each other, and both fell before anyone could interfere. This terrible end of their quarrel filled the hearts of both armies with fear, and they agreed to make a truce in order to bury their chiefs. As it was customary at the time to burn the bodies of the dead, both corpses were laid upon the funeral pyre side by side. When the wood was all burned, the ashes were put into separate urns, for the Greeks used to tell their children that these brothers hated each other so much that even their ashes would not mingle. This story of Oedipus and his family is only a myth, but it is a very celebrated one. The Greeks wrote stories, poems, and plays about it, and it is on that account that it should be known by everyone who wishes to study the history of Greece. End of chapter 11.